So my story began here. This is the Jacob Javits Center in New York City. I was 12 years old, and you're probably wondering why I was a 12-year-old walking a trade show. I was with my mom, who was in the gourmet food industry and had a store, and I was with her because I was there, of course, to buy my bat mitzvah favors wholesale. And so I was tagging along with her, and I was walking, and then I asked her the question that I guess would ultimately be my future, which was, you can shop for a living? Like, this is a job? You could, like, get paid to buy things? So that's where it really all began. And then fast forward just a few years later, and after college, I moved to New York, I consulted, and voila, I had lots of random theories and questions about why things were done one way and why couldn't they be done another way. And so I thought, let's just like sign a lease without a business plan and see what happens. So that's Story on the corner of 10th Avenue and 19th Street. And here's the idea. It's a 2,000 square foot space that has the point of view of a magazine. We reinvent it entirely every 3 to 8 weeks like a gallery, and we sell things like a store. And when I mean entirely, I mean every SKU, fixture, you name it. So we've done wellness story, made in America story, style and technology story, home for the holidays story. So you can see whatever story we're telling is what's in our brackets and our parentheses, and we've done now 40 different stories. Or I guess I'm now going to say I've owned 40 stores, because that sounds, maybe more impressive. So at the heart of the model is this idea of retail media. And the reason why I kind of frame it that way is we're used to seeing, a magazine cover in the media space that talks about a theme like color, and then this is our version of the cover of our magazine for color. A magazine tells stories by writing articles and taking pictures. We tell stories through merchandising and events. Magazines have advertisers and we have sponsors. So now we have 2 revenue streams, and sponsors underwrite about 80% of our stories. So when you open up that color issue of InStyle, you'll have a letter from the editor with some editorial perspective adjacent to a paid ad. And then in Story, we team up with brands who add authority and authenticity to a subject matter. Benjamin Moore knows far more about color than I will ever know about color, so it makes sense for them to be our partner for Color Story. If Taco Bell wanted to sponsor Color Story, that might be a different thing, but we really want it to feel cohesive and add value both for the consumer but also for our business model. And then when you went throughout the store, it was kind of organized and merchandised by color. So I think one of the many conclusions, hypotheses, things we're curious about, and that everyone's talking about now, right, is the evolution from a place that sells things to an experience that sells things. And I think my aha moment with the word experience, because I couldn't tell you that like in 2011, I'm like, yeah, we're gonna be this like experiential concept shop. I had no idea what I was doing. So we teamed up with a small company called GE, and General Electric wanted to do a story around making things and really bring to life different processes and machinery that they used to make jet engines or different machines, just so consumers were aware of kind of what they did, because they're kind of this behemoth. And so 80% of the experience in the store was experiential. You couldn't buy anything. 20% you could buy. And I thought to myself, and we were getting paid a hefty sponsorship fee. So as an industry, I don't know how many years, there's many academics in the room who could correct me, maybe 100 plus years, it's been what? Sales per square foot is the metric. And so with technology changing and consumer changing, why are we using such an outdated metric? And so making things story kind of gave us this aha moment, which was, why don't we just call it experience per square foot? And if we're making money for it, which by the way, 5 out of 10 times, we're making more money through charging for experiential space in the store, and by charging, I don't mean consumers, I mean brands, than I would be, selling a bracelet or a sweater. So there were CNC mills. You could laser cut and make your own sunglasses in the store. There were 9 MakerBot 3D printers. We had a maker station where every week we just had a different local maker come, because everyone needs a wooden rocket, of course. this was one of those moments where you're like so thrilled you have a camera on you because that was natural, that's not enhanced for happiness. But I was like, it was just a special moment. So this is a young girl seeing a 3D printer for her first time. And I think, one of the things that this picture also makes me think of is, a lot of times people are like, well, who's your demographic? And I say, it's very narrow. It's men, women, and kids between 5 and 95. I was recently reminded that Iris Apfel turned 96, and she's a good friend of Story, so I need to change that now to 5 to 96. But the reason why I say that is because as people are more precious with their time and they're choosing how to spend it, if my target for his story with our hot towel shave station is a 35-year-old male, he's not walking into Story thinking he's getting a hot towel shave. So if I want 20 minutes of his time and he's spending the day with his 6-year-old daughter, I better have something in that store for his 6-year-old daughter so that I get his attention. So we kind of think of our target marketing in 2 subsets. A couple other experiential examples. We teamed up with Cigna a few years ago. I kind of like these unlikely bedfellows, I call them, because I was like, Cigna, what am I going to do with Cigna? And what they were really interested in is, brands like Blue Cross Blue Shield and other service companies more and more are taking up retail space for customer acquisition and retention. So Cigna wanted to use us as an R&D channel to test out different strategies. And one of the technologies that they had internally that I was like, hey, can we put this in the store and just see what happens? It's a virtual reality meditation station. So for 2 minutes in the dead of winter, you could be on a beach in Bali, you could be in the jungle of Belize. So there were actually people who came every single day on their lunch break for their 2-minute meditation, which was kind of fun. Who knows Perch Interactive? Oh, okay. PERCH Interactive, look them up, they're amazing. They have lots of demos, they're not paying me to say this, I'm just saying it because they're awesome. We met them in 2012 when we did a program for Mayor Bloomberg when he was in office to find innovative fashion, retail, and technology companies. And the way Perch works is for every physical action, there's a digital reaction. So on the front end, it's consumer engagement, and on the back end, it collects customer data and analytics. So you could also real life A/B test if you wanted to. And so we kind of fell in love with them when we met them and kind of begged them to just use them as many stories as possible. So this is one format. I'll show you another one later that we use them. So this is our most recent story. Dare I say my favorite, but it's Workspace Story. And it's experiential in a very different way. I actually didn't know if this would work, but I was just really excited by the subject, so I said, let's just try it. And I'm calling it a transactional co-working space, so people can actually book space in the store and work out of it. And so I teamed up with this great guy, Aaron Dignan, who has a company called The Ready, and he's all about the future of work and transforming organizations and management teams. And so we were brainstorming, and there's a lot of conversation about how open workspaces, at the end of the day, are maybe not so productive and not in the best interest of our personal happiness. This is not me saying this, I'm just quoting things. And so we kind of stumbled upon this architect in Chicago who came up with this floor plan that's 5 different rooms, and each room has a different intention. So one of the rooms that you see there is like the salon. And so we reached out to our friends at Starbucks and the Starbucks Reserve brand, which is their higher end brand. I'm like, you think you could get us a coffee that no other Starbucks has? So they said yes, and that was kind of fun. So we have cold brew, cold foam, coffee in the store. This is the office space. You can't really see, but that screen that just looks like a screen is a digital interactive whiteboard from Samsung. And then there's this other interactive wall. But it's, one of those, this is another example, by the way, of Perch. So if I picked up Ariana's book, it would then play her interview with Ellen DeGeneres. So that's kind of the shelf version of it. So these offices are literally, 3 by 3. They're like a box. And within 2 hours of us sending out our email blast, which isn't that big of a list, it's like 48,000 people, we were completely booked. An average day has between 6 to 13 people on a wait list. So that was a huge surprise to me. I haven't figured out why yet, but that was just interesting. So the future store is not a store, probably not the room to say this in, but I also have a store, so I feel like I can say that. And then the small words say, okay, not really, but it's a new kind of store. So who's heard of ComplexCon? Okay. So ComplexCon is something I hadn't heard of till a year ago, and I am so obsessed with it, it's not even funny. I stayed there for 2 full days nonstop. So what is ComplexCon? First of all, Complex is a magazine. If I'm not mistaken, it was started by Mark Echo. So this looks like a trade show, right? The difference is it's for consumers. This was in Long Beach, California. And so you can shop. So consumers can buy tickets and shop, and they can get Nikes, leather jackets, limited editions, or you could hear Pharrell perform, or you could listen to a panel conversation on the future of beauty and startups with Chelsea Handler and BeautyCon. And so I was so obsessed with this because here are some fun facts. You have to pay to go. So before you walk in that door, they've made money. So you're paying to shop before you've bought anything, which I just find phenomenal. I can't remember the number. I know the difference of $20 million is a lot, but let's just say it's between $20 and $40 million that they did in total in 2 days. And it was only the second year they've done this event. But it was just fascinating to me. So what I thought was interesting was when you looked at the different age and the demographic and all the activities going on, there was something for everyone, but also like people's attention spans are so much shorter, right? So you want to go to a conference and then you want to go to the Nike booth and you want to go do this. So I literally just sat there like a stalker, but not a stalker, watching everything all day because I really think this is something in terms of how I think commerce is continuing to evolve.